Hello, it's Neil Green coming to you. I'm your instructor again, and I wanted to add this feature to the course from time to time our throughout our weeks together to kind of bolster the curriculum and give you some insight on some of the key topics that we discuss. And what you see here on your screen is what I believe and have found after teaching this for a while, that it's one of the activities that we do, and you're going to do in week 2 of this course, is the social identities portrait. And what we have, this wheel here, it's from Temple University. It kind of mirrors the activity that you're going to do. It's just in a different format. There are a couple different things, but what this is meant to do in the activity that you're going to do is to start thinking about perceptions people may have because of certain characteristics that you have, or in other words, your social identities portrait. And a lot of times you'll find they're not true or not accurate, and there's a potential for discrimination that exists in certain things that are way beyond our control at all. And these are things that I want you to be aware of, and bring up the critical thinking thing again, and we'll get into that in a minute. But let's just go through each of these slices quickly and kind of try and identify um, potential, victims of discrimination. For example, race. The minorities have faced the potential for discrimination, of course, and that would be, beyond anyone's control, but the potential exists. Ethnicity is another one, and ethnicity, I grew up in an Italian family, and when people hear Italian, you're Italian. Not everybody, obviously, but sometimes the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, you must be in the mob, right? But these are the kind of stereotypes, or discriminatory views that people have about others that are not true at all. So, um, moving on, socioeconomic class. Socioeconomic class. People in a low socioeconomic class are often, victims of discrimination, and people in the highest upper echelon of the socioeconomic class are face the least discrimination. So, just something to keep in mind. Age. Now, I'm guessing it's about age 40, which I am over that, when you start to face age discrimination. Um, so, I mean, I don't know if that's something you've thought of, but it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. And the point here is that somebody under the age of 40 would look at a individual over 40 as less than or marginalized. Not fair, but that's the way our society works, right? In sexual orientation, um, gay or lesbian, if you're gay or lesbian, you face the strong potential for discrimination. So okay, that's a pretty obvious one. Biological sex, and biological sex is different than gender, and I'm going to talk about gender in a minute, which is up here on the part of the wheel. But biological sex is only our sexual anatomy, boy or girl. So think of biological sex in only in terms of our anatomy. And then we're going to move on to national origin, and this one's interesting because basically it's treating people unfairly because they're from a particular part of the world. It's an illegal act in the workplace, but as you know, sometimes there are creative ways to get rid of people that don't necessarily measure up to the standards of the manager or whoever is in charge for whatever reason. Obviously, it's illegal for a reason, it's unfair, but it's a practice that goes on. If you're from a particular part of the world, you may face discrimination from somebody for whatever reason. Um, Religion or spiritual affiliation. If you think about what's going on in today's world, you can't turn on the news without seeing some sort of um, battle or war over religion. For example, just to name a few in our modern times: Palestine and Israel, Pakistan and India, Abyssinia and Somalia, the Nigerian conflict, and ISIS, among many, many others. But it's such a huge part of our world today, and the religious battle for gay and lesbian marriage. So that's a homegrown type example of that, of some people who may face discrimination. And I'm not, and remember, this isn't to judge, it's just to put that out there. People, the potential for discrimination exists. And then if you look at this slice, it's something very important to me. It's people with special needs or disabilities. Often this group is a group that can face huge amounts of discrimination, and even to this day, even in the 40s and 50s, these people with disabilities were institutionalized and kind of locked away and thrown away the key. But obviously that's changed for the better. But there's still a lot of work to be done. So something to think about. And move on to first language. And what that means is, if English is your, if you think about it, if you live in America and English is not your first language, you could face potential discrimination. Or if you have a thick accent or an accent, you could face potential discrimination. And then we move on to gender. And by gender, we mean we're discussing your biology, your social, and legal status in the United States. So that's what we're talking about, gender. And in gender, think about it. You face potential discrimination if you're a female. And one example of that is, as a male and female who have the same job, the male will make $1 to every 77 or 78 cents that a female makes for the same position. So unfair, of course, but these are things that are a result of the society we live in today, and things to think about. Now, the question here: list the identities you think about most often. So I did that, and what I think about most often, just so you know, to give you a little insight into me, is being, age over 40 at UGG, right? I think about that a lot. I don't necessarily think about being discriminated against, which I probably should a little bit more. And disability, as I mentioned, I'm a huge advocate for people with disabilities, and I think about that a lot. And I think about socioeconomic class a lot. I just, like everybody else, I'm trying to always increase my income and do, have a better lot in life, that sort of thing, financially. I think about ethnicity a lot too, because even though my last name is Green, I grew up in an all-Italian family with an Italian grandmother, and cooking was a huge part of my life growing up and with her. And now that I have a new son under 2 years old, I'm trying. That's important to me to kind of instill those, that culture, that experience in with him. So I think about that a lot in being Italian. Um, Things I think about the least would be first language. I don't think about that much. Sexual orientation, I don't think about that too much. I think about, friends that I have that are gay and lesbian, and I worry about their positions in society and how they're doing, but I don't think about it too much. Also, gender. I don't think about gender too much. Now, I say that kind of for a reason. So explain what I mean. I'm the diversity teacher, of course. So I think about these issues all the time. I do every quarter. But I'm trying to look at it from a perspective of someone who isn't a diversity teacher or do what I do. This is content that I interact with on a daily basis, and stuff that I'm interested in for research and higher education, etc. So for me, it's a little bit different. But to answer question number three, why might I? Basically, it's asking why I think about some, um, characteristics and not others as much. And the answer that I have for you is, people tend to only think about what affects them the most, and it's human nature to do that. But in order to be a critical thinker and enhance your critical thinking ability, you want to start thinking about everything and kind of analyzing everything out there. And for example, I listed first language, sexual orientation, and gender as things that I think about the least, and that makes sense because I'm male. Um, uh, Race would be another one. I'm white, so I'm the in terms of society, I'm in the power position. Fair or not, I'm not saying it's fair. First language, my first language is English, so I don't think about that much. Um, and I don't face discrimination with the language that I speak. And sexual orientation, I'm married with a kid. I don't heterosexual, so I don't face the potential for discrimination in that And again, this was just to give you a little insight into this upcoming assignment you have for this week. It could stir a lot of emotions in you, and it's unfair. And the main point that I want to take away is whenever you work with kids, translate this to kids. Think about, not placing them in a category. This wheel, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't define who you are. It doesn't tell. It's just a piece of who you are. It's just a piece of who you are. And the particular activity you're going to do, I believe that being a single parent is has the potential for discrimination or to be marginalized. So again, not right, but these are things of how society at large may perceive a certain group of people. So it's just something to think about, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thanks.